Victorian, Bayswater. Chapter 5. Paddington Station. On January the 10th, 1863, Paddington Railway Station was opened to the public. It was the Great Western Railway line and the Metropolitan Railway together. The railway's construction had resulted in many families being evicted from their houses so that they could be demolished. The broad staircase led down 30 feet to platform level, but long before reaching the bottom, the smell of smoke and steam pervades the air. You could feel the draught the closer one found to the underlying cause. The gas burners light the way as we jostle along, for there are a steady stream of would-be passengers also making their way along the smoke-filled tunnel. At last the train is reached. It was just over a mile away from home in Salem Gardens. That same year, riding in the Row, in London's Hyde Park, the latest carriage style included the Victorian phaeton, the mail phaeton, the four-wheeled dog-cart, the light wagonette, the brougham, the Parisian phaeton, the Stanhope phaeton. The bicycle too changed with improved tyres, gears and brakes, and by 1900 the cost of an average car was £385, which was about 10 times that of a farm worker, his yearly income. Paddington was now a borough with tree-shaded roads and squares. There was an enormous disparity between the various districts, and this was apparent when getting near to Hyde Park and those houses along the canal. The areas around the railway terminus, the shops and the entertainment centres in Westbourne Grove, Queen's Road and Edgware Road gave variety and colour. In 1900 horse transport was the usual mode of travel for both individuals and groups of people. Most of the carriages were privately owned, although there was a public horse-drawn system called the omnibus. Some people had a pony and trap or small governess cart drawn by 2 very small ponies, and occasionally goats pulled the country carts. Every shop had its errand boy who delivered goods by hand. The older boys doing a bigger round used a pony-drawn cart. Very few people carried their own shopping, relying upon the shop's delivery service, and men drove Beuer's drays drawn by 4 huge horses with their jingling horse brasses and bells, with bowler hats sitting high up on the front covered with a tarpaulin wrap fastened over their knees. Carrier vans collected and delivered heavier goods on either 2 or 4-wheeled carts. 2 paraffin lamps or acetylene lamps lit the way. These vans travelled around a particular route known by the inhabitants. If their services were required, a note had to be pinned to your door or gate. Deliveries were also made from the railway stations, guaranteeing a door-to-door service. It was alongside Kensington Gardens that the stagecoach route ran from central London. During school holidays my father would sit in the public gardens and watch the coaches bowling along the road to Windsor or Hurlingham, with the guard whipping up the horses and blowing his coaching horn. All traffic travelled at the pace of a horse. Carriages of many different styles abounded. On every 1st of May a rustic pageant called Jack in the Green was enacted. The sweeps boys, decorated with garlands of green leaves, cavorted around the streets, and Maid Marian was the traditional May Queen who was pulled by handcart to her throne. When father's family were asked to leave Salem Gardens, they rented a house in Bayswater, and it was here that my father started kindergarten in 1892 at the age of 3. His starter class, attached to the infant school, was well attended, taught by senior girls at the age of 14, considered fit by their studies to consider teaching as a profession. Parents had to pay perhaps 4p a week for their first child, then, on a sliding scale, less for additional children. The rate was flexible according to the parents' income. and these fees were only just beginning to be scraped together after an extra government grant for elementary education brought into being. The minimum leaving age was 12, and by the time Albert started school, at the same time attendance for all children became compulsory. St. Matthew's Infant School, Poplar Place, Moscow Road, was a small church school for very young children, and was to last for 2 years. There were no desks or individual seats, but galleries amounting to 8 rows of broad steps. He had to sing his multiplication tables and alphabet every morning, and these were not the only form of learning. There was others: spectrum colours, kings and queens, months of the year, and many other useful facts. They were all sung in unison. Common words learnt by heart and religiously checked every day by his teacher. Proper pronunciation of words, the correct use of grammar, national tunes, mental arithmetic, countries of the empire were all given place in the curriculum, and by the end of the 2-year period a great deal had been learnt and committed to memory. Girl teachers, who were very patient and kind, knowing as they did how important it was that their charges could cope with the curriculum at the junior school, gave the lessons. His girl teachers were 14, the age when pupils left school, and were the brightest girls from the top class, who were in teacher training. There were no grants. Training had to be paid for by the parents. There were few jobs for girls. To be a nurse, the training was exactly the same. The parents paid the fees. Some worked in local hospitals, but were not able to qualify without going to college to receive their certificate. My father was very happy at St. Matthew's School, and did well, coming out top of the class. And at this age he began piano lessons, which he persevered with. Years later achieved a professional standard.